Hi, evening everyone. I hope you had a good assignment one. I think your peers, your classmates are still slowly moving in, so we wait for a while. Hi, evening. Today my voice a bit sexy, yeah, because I'm down with flu. Sorry for that. But yeah, luckily we do it through Zoom class, so it will not spread. Okay, so as I mentioned, today we also have another guest lecturer. So I think last session when 2 weeks ago when we had the guest lecturer, Dr. James Ong, right, it was quite interactive. He's an AI expert. And today we have Dr. Tan Hui Ping, who will join us at 9 p.m. Right. He was the ex-chief data officer of Health Promotion Board. So also going to be very interesting. Yeah. So you'll learn a lot from him as well. Not only an AI expert, but also someone who has implemented data and AI in the public sector. Yeah. How's everyone with your assignment one? I'm looking through, so I think not bad, most of you. Yeah. Assignment two is coming out in October, right? And it's actually health related. So today, I already shared with Dr. Tan. So he also share something that you can pick his brain and then help in your assignment two as well, right? Let's wait 5 more minutes for some other students to join. Yeah. So last 2 weeks ago, our last session, we finished part of chapter 4. So today we'll finish up chapter 4 and then chapter 5 and chapter 6. Yeah. So while waiting, you may want to just grab a water. Yeah. And if you haven't had your dinner, you can grab a dinner as well. Yeah. I know some of you are working. Any question anybody have while we are waiting? Good with your assignment? You understand so far? Okay, no question. Okay, great. Thanks, Rajiv. You score really high points for class participation, Rajiv. You are always very responsive. Thanks for that. Yeah. And a lot of good ideas and feedback as well. Yeah. Yeah. So later on, when we have the guest lecturer, also ask him question, right? Or agree to disagree as well. Right. Very interesting guy, Dr. Tan. Yeah. He's sometimes I say because he's civil servant, right? So sometimes you can't tell his expression from his facial expression. But well, that's public service, right? But he's very knowledgeable. Yeah. Okay, so grab a drink. I think let's start in 2 minutes time. Yeah, while waiting for others. Okay, let's get started. We are 8 minutes past the starting time. Okay, so thanks for joining again. Yeah. I think people will start streaming in, or maybe people think that assignment one finished already, can take a break. Okay, so in the last session, 2 weeks ago, we covered until, okay, someone's coming in. We covered until chapter 4, right? Before challenges of regulations, right? Can anyone remember? You can type in as well if you don't want to show your face. Right? Can anyone remember what was chapter 4 about? Right? Anyone? No one remember. Right, chapter 1, we talk about AI, history, evolution, AI winter. We talk about how AI is used in public administration, improve efficiency. I show you the GovTech report on they use it more for internal efficiency before citizen engagement, right? Okay, good. Thanks, Rajiv. Yes, government as regulator, right? So if you scroll up all the way to top of chapter 4, we look at AI, right? Again, and government as a regulator. So what is government as a regulator, right? So again, if you have done your revision, right? So if you also remember, right, Dr. James Ong, our guest lecturer, talked about how to regulate AI, right? So different countries have different regulation and policies. And for sure, I think you also answer correctly, right, when we did some of the Mentimeter. So for example, many of you say that China will be the country with most of the AI regulations, yeah? And surprisingly, Singapore doesn't have enough AI regulations or laws yet, although there are a lot of guidelines. And I show you some of the guidelines that I personally was involved in, like the AI in healthcare, yeah? Okay, so these are some of the reports, right? China has the most number of AI law enacted, and then of course there's plenty of guidelines. Whereas Singapore, although we think Singapore may have a lot of law, but there isn't. There's mainly guidelines, but no law yet. Okay, but of course many countries already started drafting AI related law. Okay, so this is about government as a regulator. So when other people like commercial sector or even public sector launches AI application, right? These regulations help to regulate to say, okay, what can AI do? What can AI not do? What should AI do? And what should AI not do? And whose responsibility it is, yeah? So these are some of the law or guidelines in the AI regulations itself, okay? So this is more AI as regulation. So we talk about why regulate AI, right? You need to have remove the bias, you need to provide transparency, there's data privacy concern, you need to have ethical use of AI. This ethical use of AI is very, very common, right? So you will hear for the next few hours or even the next few sessions, we always talk about ethical AI. We always talk about responsible AI because AI is a technology, right? And you can see it is as use cases and applications, right? But AI has a lot of social impact as well, as we have seen in chapter 2 and chapter 3, right? Many of the social impact of AI impacts the people, right? It can be creating digital divide, right? It can be creating maybe job losses, but creating new jobs, right? It may be deep fakes, giving you false information, right? And we have seen in chapter 3 how some of this actually help in the political campaign, right? So these are the different use of AIs that requires some form of ethical frameworks as well as responsible use. Yeah, that's why it's important to regulate AI. Okay, and of course a lot on trust, right, and public participation and all those things, right? And then key areas for AI regulation was also seen through, right? So what are the different areas that have AI being regulated? I show you the case of healthcare, transportation. We always talk about autonomous vehicle, right? When AV knock on someone, right? Whose fault is that? Is the one who designed the AI, or is it the car manufacturer, or is it the AI controller, right? There are many, many ways to look at things. Okay, so that's where we stop at. Okay, and now let's look at the challenges of regulations. Okay, and of course, the other two topics we'll cover today is first is government as a regulator. So how do they regulate or create laws or guidelines to make sure that AI is used responsibly and ethically? Then we'll talk about AI government as a promoter, right? How do they promote the use of AI and why do they want to promote that? That's in chapter 5. And chapter 6 is government as a user, right? So of course, government are also using AI and we've seen that a lot in chapter 2 and 3. where they use it for citizen engagement, for internal operation efficiency, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the challenges of regulations. Okay, that's where we stop at in the last session. Okay. So one of the key challenge of regulating AI is that definitely how fast, right? What's the pace? Can regulations keep pace with innovation? We know that AI is evolving still, and we have went through 2 AI winter. And you know that there's so many AI initiatives. We always joke about, even this afternoon, I was at a panel discussion for the school of SST, right? Your schoolmates in the other school in SUSS. So we asked them what are the specialization they want to get in, right? They are the ICT major people, right? I would say 50% of them chose data and AI, right? Other than like cybersecurity and others. So data and AI, we joke about that. Anything, whether you start a company or you do a project internally in your company, or even you choose a major, right? If anything has an AI word in that, it becomes so popular, right? Everybody wants to get into that. But it is also evolving, and we have seen that there are 2 AI winters, right? Since the 1940s, 1950s. And yes, you have processing power, you have cloud, you have many other things that actually helps to make sure that AI bump up again, right? Now, how do we ensure that AI will continue to go up and will not face another third winter itself, right? So definitely there's a lot of innovations ongoing. The most advanced one and the most latest and what you know about is definitely all the Gen AI, right? Generative AI, which actually came out since ChatGPT was launched officially publicly last year. Then you start having Meta AI, you have Lumina. There are so many different forms of AI, right? So it's rapid technology advancement, right? So with all this thing, like we may be coming out with AI guideline in healthcare 2 years ago, the one I showed you called Agile, right? But that was focusing on AI itself. It doesn't take into Gen AI or LLM into considerations. So now with LLM and Gen AI, do I need to tweak it, right? If I already launch a law or I already pass a law, right? I cannot suddenly or easily just change it, right? It's unlike technology advancement. Yes, I can tweak it here and there and then I advance. But when you come out with a policy that impacts the public, you cannot just overnight tweak it, right? So can regulations keep pace with innovation, right? Because of rapid technology advancement, there's something to be considered, right? That's why you can see Singapore doesn't have a lot of laws yet, but there's a lot of guidelines because we are also still looking at things, right? Because the technology, the AI innovation is evolving. So we cannot cast and stone to say the law should look like this and that. Yeah, that's one of the reasons as well. Of course, complex nature, right? AI is multidisciplinary. It's not just about technology itself, right? There's hardware, there's software, there's data interaction, there's cross-agency sharing of data, there is unknowingly collecting data from the IoT devices, right? Then there's even machine learning, which can generate new sets of data, right, out of the algorithm itself. So it's complex. How do you understand? How do you know how to pass a law for that, right? Of course, you have unintended consequences, right? So they may be because of especially the Gen AI case, right? There may be new use cases created. There may be new data or new scenarios created with the AI itself. Yeah. And AI is global as well, right? So we have seen that whatever we are doing today is not limited just in Singapore. We can say, okay, I do an AI triaging of a healthcare in Singapore. But whatever we triage, right, it may say a certain thing about a certain disease, the treatment itself, the prescription itself. And it is not going to just affect Singapore because if it is so popular and is proved to be working, right, let's say curing AI triaging to cure a heart patient, right, then this thing will go global as well, right? So there's a lot of different nature of AI that it's not easy to just pass a law to regulate it. So that's why there's a lot of strategies to adapt and create the flexible regulations, right? One is a risk-based approach, right? So we focus on the higher risk AI applications first, right? But for the lower risk area, we'll get it not so we'll put it more as a guidelines rather than passing law because things may still be evolving and changing, right? So what are the higher risks, right? Things that are related to patient safety, right? Or to citizen safety, so autonomous vehicle, right? And then things like AI triaging or AI assisted robot surgery. These are the ones that have higher risk and you need more regulatory effort. Whereas things like robotic process automation, the one I show you in the COVID-19 we use to do data entry, those you probably don't need to do too much regulatory control over it for now. Yeah. Then of course you can have sandbox, and I showed you in the previous classes. For telemedicine, there's this thing called LEAP, right? LEAP, LEAP program that the Ministry of Health launched in 2017 or 18, right? Where they actually encourage telemedicine players to test the telemedicine software in the sandbox itself. So there are many, many sandboxes, and we will see later on as well. Yeah. Then, of course, the regulatory framework should be as agile as possible, right? Because of the technological advancement and changes that's often happening. Yeah. But as I say, it goes back to the political systems again, right? There are some political system, especially the democratic one, right? It is not so easy to pass a law. You need to go through multiple layers, you need to go through voting, right? And that's why for those, are they agile enough? They may be less agile as compared to countries that's authoritarian, right? Like China, because you have less layers to go through. So again, it depends, right? But generally, if you map back to the AI regulatory table I showed you just now, right? The more democratic you are, you probably go with more guidelines than regulations first, right? Because passing a law takes time and go through many layers, and a lot of money and effort will be spent as well. Okay. Collaboration and partnership, right? So there's a lot of partnership needed with the industry player to launch the AI. And that's why later on, you also see some example in Singapore. We have many AI, I don't call it regulations, but AI initiative by the government. And they are usually partnership with industry players such as AWS and many others, Microsoft and others, yeah. Now, of course, performance-based standard is important, right? Rather than specific technical requirements, right? So we look at the outcome of it, right? And ensuring safety and efficacy rather than saying that AI, these are the technical requirements and I set the laws to that, okay? And of course, most important thing is that because things are changing and evolving, right? Especially anything that is new, right? There's a need to continuously monitor and evaluate, okay? So regulatory sandbox, right? So this allows business to test new products, services, or business model, right, in a controlled environment with regulatory oversight, right, ensuring innovation while maintaining safety and consumer protection. So again, what's this, right? One of the most popular example that I quoted is LEAP program, right, telemedicine. The other one that is happening today, which we'll see in chapter 5 later, right? I don't put it under regulatory because it hasn't, although sandbox is used to see the result, and then from there you come up with policy, right? Like what the LEAP program for telemedicine is. 2017, when it was launched as a sandbox, Dr. Anywhere, White Coat, everybody put their solutions there and test it, right? And then the government see, okay, you need to do 2 minutes of video consult before you can give a prescription. And your first consultation must always be physical and cannot be teleconsult. So these kind of rules or regulations are actually devised according to the outcome of the sandbox and the customer and the operator's feedback, right? Then recently, I think about 1.5 years ago, government launched this thing called AI Verify, which again is like a sandbox or environment, right? Collaboration ecosystem that actually encourage people to test their results there. And today I'm working with many of the, I'll say the public healthcare providers to come out with platforms, right? Where they actually allows people, the clinicians, to test their AI algorithm, whether is it a smart medication, for example, to say that I put a PCB board over a pill box, right? And then to say that if the patient take the number of pills correctly, then it's okay. If not, then you'll give it alert, right? So that's kind of a medication adherence, or some other cases like maybe just different triaging or clinical pathway. So these are the different things that you can test in a sandbox environment. Yeah. And of course, sandbox, it helps to foster innovations, right? for startups or even big companies, it reduces the barriers of entry, right? It helps to test a lot of the new AI thing. So that will help to prevent another AI winter because you actually have a very vibrant community of people testing different products and solutions. Okay. It also helps to do risk mitigation, right? As we say, sandbox is a controlled environment, very similar to the actual production environment. So that will help to identify risk early. Yeah. Collaboration, right? As I mentioned, it can be a government sandbox, it can be a commercial sandbox, like AWS also have some of these sandboxes, right? It actually helps to bring different parties. Some are very good data scientists, some are solution provider, some are just users, bring them together to collaborate and see the benefits of the AI that's being launched. Okay. And then of course, it will provide the necessary outcome or the data to the policy regulator to see what kind of policy they should devise according to the outcome of it. And of course, the result of the sandbox are usually published. Many of you may not be aware, but the telemedicine sandbox, the government publish on a quarterly basis to the affected stakeholder, right? What are the outcome of it? So it helps to increase the public confidence from there as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of advantages of regulatory sandbox, and you can see more and more of that coming out as well. Okay. Mitigating risks, right? So definitely in a sandbox, there are clear parameters, right, to ensure the guidelines of the experimentation, right? You can identify hazards and create strategies, right? It protects the consumer, right? Because there's privacy measures, there's dispute resolutions, right? There will be time and scope limitation, right? Which will actually help to devise a sandbox. So you can always extend and expand the scope, but you will want to see results at a timely manner as well. Okay. Now, of course, sandbox will have an exit strategy, right, to become a normal regulations. So if you notice, the LEAP program is ending soon, and then I think there's a delay. Actually, from 2024, there's supposed to be telemedicine law being passed, but I think it's delayed to 2025. But I think I also discussed with you, there was a recent case where I think it's called Manadog. Manadog actually, the government or the regulators found that some of their teleconsult was like 10 seconds and some even as short as 1 second. So how can a teleconsult be 1 second or 10 seconds and it give a prescription? So they actually felt that there isn't law yet, right? But they actually created a lot of doubts in their teleconsultation. And that's where the regulatory sandbox actually put a stop to them for not able to conduct telemedicine for the next 6 months or something like that. So there's a lot of advantages of that regulatory sandbox, right? Before a law is being passed. Okay. And of course, regulatory sandbox is used, right? Because it's applicability, right? And there's a lot of eligibility assessment, and then you can do live testing and review. Okay. So regulatory sandbox is there to stay, and it is a good, I would say, intermediate step towards passing a law itself, especially when there's a lot of technological advancement. Yeah. So again, other than the sandbox that I have told you about the LEAP program that I myself was personally involved in, there are many other regulatory sandbox, right? So there's a fintech sandbox by MAS, right, on the AI-driven financial services. You can search about that. Then UK also have another one called FCA and CDEI, right? And then United States, you have other departments actually having regulatory sandbox as well. So again, the advantages of such regulatory sandbox, as I mentioned, right, it really accelerated innovations. Okay, it improved regulatory understanding before you pass a law because you actually can collect data points to know what are the results and the benefits of that, and even challenges of all this new technology, right? It actually improved public trust, and to some extent, it create job creations. Yeah. Okay, so these are the references if you want to read more about the regulatory sandboxes. Yeah. Okay, so when we are talking about government as a regulator, right? So why do they want to do that, right? It's really to target potential risks. So the first step of a risk targeting or entire risk mitigation is about risk identification and assessment, right? So from here, we'll look at the different mapping of the AI. Then we categorize them, right, according to the risk categorization. Then we do risk assessment metrics, right? Then we kind of involve industry experts to do stakeholder engagement. Okay, so that's the first step of risk identification and assessment. Then we do prioritization and resource allocation, right? So we can do risk scoring, right? That's where we put some kind of numerical value, right, to enable quantitative comparison. Then we got into resource allocation metrics, right, to say what kind of regulatory resources we need to put in to the different risk category and risk scores where they stand in the entire risk hierarchy. Okay, then we have a clear criteria for prioritization, right? So things that will create potential harm, things that have a feasibility to mitigate, and things that impact public interest, right? Then from there, we do resource optimization as well. So that is the risk prioritization, right? Normally, what you come up with is a risk matrix out of it, okay? Then from there, we have regulatory strategy development, right? So like we mentioned, one of the way is to do risk-based approach. We focus on those that have higher AI risk first, right? Then other approaches, we can do sandbox, right? And then we can create ethical guidelines. And then we collaborate internationally to establish the global AI governance standard. It's just like the quality standards of ISO, right? In the past, right? It is not just a Singapore have a ISO standard, right? When we had say ISO 27001, right, or something like that, it's actually globally recognized standard. So we are also collaborating internationally to establish the global AI standards as well. Okay, and after that, we'll do monitoring, evaluation, and adaptation. Okay. Again, we always need to balance risk and benefit. Like I mentioned, right? So there's definitely a lot of risk when it comes to new technology. It's not just AI, okay? And in order not to hamper the development or the technological advancement, it's important to balance the risk and benefit, right? We also don't want to go all out and then we say now, I mean, if you look at today in Singapore, you still cannot have real autonomous driving in Singapore road, right? In China, some provinces already have AI-driven buses, right? But in Singapore, it still has to be two types. It's either your autonomous vehicle inside you can have a driver's seat with a real human sitting inside, or you can have someone like in Sentosa, right? You can have someone actually riding beside the autonomous vehicle to actually go with the autonomous vehicle to make sure that it actually works, right? So actually there is a lot of control in Singapore for autonomous vehicles still. Okay. So so that's risk assessment, categorization, right? Where we actually kind of balance it on what we want to put the risk as. Okay. Then of course from there we actually try to come up with a risk mitigation, right? We can encourage experimentation, we focus on outcomes, right? Then we leverage industry expertise and adopt a flexible framework. Okay. So Singapore government in AI governance, right? So there is a lot of SOP, right, to monitor and manage risk, right? So that's the internal governance structure and measures, right? And then determine the level of human involvement in AI augmented decision making, right? Appropriate degree of human involvement is needed, right? And that's why I say, even in the autonomous vehicle in Singapore, unlike in China where you can have a real autonomous vehicle, over here you either still have a driver sitting inside, or you have like in Sentosa, you have someone riding a bicycle beside the autonomous vehicle. Yeah. And of course, we need to have some kind of operation management to minimize bias in the data and the model. Okay. And last but not least, just like any policies, right? And Singapore is quite good at doing that. You always get feedback, right? Either in focus group discussion or you actually get public involvement. And I myself was invited to a few of this focus group discussion as well as a public figure. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at one of the Singapore government initiative in the AI governance framework. Let me share computer sound.
Well, Singapore and the United States have linked their AI governance frameworks. This will not only standardize guidelines, it will also foster a more conducive environment for AI deployment and innovation. It's one of 6 key technologies in which both sides are looking to enhance their cooperation. Geraldine Yap tells us more.
In a first for both countries, Singapore and the United States have aligned their governance frameworks for artificial intelligence. It's a move the two sides say will provide greater clarity for companies using AI to meet requirements within both frameworks. This was announced at an inaugural bilateral dialogue on critical and emerging technology. In remarks made at the dialogue, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said countries have to come together to draw on collective wisdom and experiences to address challenges related to AI, such as cyber risks and ethical issues. A bilateral group on AI governance will be set up, and both sides will enhance research and technical collaborations in the emerging technology. The aim is to promote AI safety and security and develop the workforce. Singapore and American firms that develop and use AI took part in a separate roundtable co-chaired by Communications and Information Minister Josephine Teo. They include Amazon, Google, Meta, Grab, and ST Engineering. The companies discussed the opportunities and challenges in using the technology and agreed to look into further partnerships between the public and private sectors. Geraldine Yap, CNA, Washington, D.C.
So this one, you can see that Singapore and US actually announced some kind of fostering of the standardization, right? And collaboration, right? So that's important because many of the, I would say, big AI players in today's world, they are either from China or they are from US. And of course, with the China-US tension, right? And slightly different political systems that Singapore and China and US are in, right? There is a lot of AI collaboration with the United States first, right? Especially the big players like AWS, right? Which is Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta, as you have heard from there. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Singapore and the United.
Okay, so that kind of finish our AI for government as a regulator. Okay, any questions from anyone? No, sorry, my voice not very good today. Okay, now let's go on to chapter 5, right? Which is actually about government as a promoter, right? So just now we say already, government in our course, right? Government play 3 roles in AI itself, right? In the public administration case. One is as a regulator. So they come up with laws, guidelines, regulations, sandboxes, right? To actually guide the use of AI. So now we talk about government as promoter. What's the meaning of promoter, right? So they actually promote the use of that. But why do they want to do that, right? So there are many reasons, right? They believe it may help in decision making, right? They believe that it can help in efficiency and helping the business to flourish more, right? There are many reasons why government want to promote as well, right? Then the last one that we'll look at it before end of today's class is government as a user, which is the most common because we have seen that most of the time, right? Government themselves use a lot of AI. Okay. So if you look at government as promoter, okay. So one of the key things is that I can promote everybody to use AI more because I see all the benefit. But one of the key concerns, as we always say, right, you will hear 2 words very often when it comes to any AI development in the public space, right? One is the ethical use of AI. The other one is the responsible AI development, right? So ethical consideration in AI, what are the things that we need to consider, right? From design to deployment, to development and to deployment, okay? So one of the things is that although there are many benefits in AI, but there are also many risks, right? Same thing, we talk about it many times, whether is it AI-assisted robotic surgery, right? When anything goes wrong, sub-millisecond delay, the patient may die. Who's responsible is it, right? And then a lot of AI needs a lot of data. So getting their data, there's privacy concern. Yes, there's PDPA, right, that guides the Personal Data Protection Act, that guides the use of the data. But yes, you still get data. So for example, I told you guys before, right? There's a lot of cross-agency sharing of data here. So your MRT, your transport data that you as a commuter taking the MRT, taking the buses, right? Some of this data, whether anonymized or not anonymized, is passed to other places, right? Other agency for use, right? Maybe to predict the human traffic, and then you can give your transport better, or you may be shared across to other agencies such as the Housing Development Board to know, okay, so should I build more shelters here or whatever, right? So that's some of the cases. And the one I'm most familiar with is definitely in the healthcare again, right? So do you know that there's this thing called CHAS, right? Your medical subsidy schemes, right? How do you determine? It's based on your household income. So there's definitely a lot of sharing of data between CPF, IRAS, as well as the Ministry of Health to know what kind of subsidy each of you should be entitled to, right? And that's based on your household income, based on your property under your name, based on your salary, and based on many, many things, right? So there's actually sharing of data between CPF, IRAS, as well as Ministry of Health to devise the necessary subsidy scheme for you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So again, like I mentioned, right, there's important of ethical integration. One is definitely building trust, right? Ethical AI fosters public trust in technology, essential for widespread adoption and acceptance, right? So that's important when you design AI for all the way to deployment, right? And then we need to address ethical concerns proactively, right? They will prevent negative impacts such as discrimination or privacy breaches. Yeah. And then legal compliance. Many jurisdictions are developing AI regulations, and ethical development aligns with legal requirements as well, right? And then, of course, ethical AI encourage responsible innovation, right? It will lead to more sustainable and beneficial solutions. Okay, so that's the importance to do things that are ethically considered, right? When you do design to deployment for AI technology. Okay, and of course, some of the key ethical consideration AI, right? We talk about it many times in the past few sessions as well, right? AI system must treat all individuals fairly, right? Avoid any AI bias, right? There's this term that we kind of know in this recent world. It's called AI bias. What are AI bias, right? We went through a few examples, right? So they may be biased according to gender. They may be biased according to the race, right? So we saw in the Australia cases where they actually think that people who are darker in skin color or stay in a more poorer areas are more likely to be a criminal, right? So these are AI bias, right? There are also many cases of AI biases between the East and the West, and then the male and the female, right? So I also show you some example, right, where Amazon in the past, they actually have a bias in terms of recruitment against the female, yeah? So these are AI bias. Transparency, the developed system should be able to understand, right, and explain to human, right, with the use of AI. So the transparency is a key ethical considerations in AI itself. Then clear line of responsibility needs to be established, okay, for AI-driven decisions. This involves who is accountable for the system action and consequences. As I mentioned, this is the most common thing, right? Everybody say, I want to do AI, do AI. But when AI do something wrong, who is it to blame? Yeah, you blame on AI, but who is AI? AI is a program. So do you blame on a programmer? Yes and no, you can or cannot, because there's also machine learning. Machine learning sometimes is or deep learning, right? And generative AI, which means the algorithm are not created just by the programmer anymore. There are new things, the AI self-learn, they can learn, right? So they become like have a human nature in it. So who is responsible for that, right? So these are the things to be considered as well. It's not so straightforward. Then privacy, right? Develop AI system must be able to handle personal data responsibly, right? Because there's a lot of data to be used before AI can become meaningful. Yeah. So these are some of the key ethical considerations in AI. Right. Okay. So some of the ethical AI considerations, right? So as I mentioned, there's this thing that's launched in Singapore called AI Verify, right? AI Verify Foundation. It really, the entire aim of it, right, is to use the collective power and contribution of the global open source community to develop AI testing tool. It's like something like a sandbox as well, right? But ultimately, they just want to make sure that from there, they can actually derive the best practices and standards for the ethical and responsible use of AI, right? And from there, they can build trust with the public. So this is launched by IMDA, right? And it's actually a not-for-profit foundation wholly owned by IMDA, right? Really, you have many companies there. You can go to the AI Verify Foundation website to take a look. You have the premium members, which are your big AI players, like the three US companies, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, right? And then you have the smaller ones, like the local companies, ST Engineering, and CS and others who actually contribute to this foundation as well. So you test a lot of that, right? And then through the testing, it's like a sandbox where you actually can derive guidelines as ultimately, hopefully, regulations. Yeah. So so companies actually join this AI Verify Foundation, right? Because it includes testing framework that covers 11 internationally accepted AI ethical principles, right? And this is evolving, right? And every MVP, minimum viable product that you put in, right, for testing, it starts with 8 principles and it can go up to even more, okay? Then there is an integrated toolkit, right? We can test the explainability, the robustness, and the fairness of the use of this AI, right? It's easily deployed, right? So again, if your company that you are working with today is developing some kind of AI, I'll say you can use this AI Verify Foundation, right, to get some of the tools to test the AI ethical part of your AI, okay? Then after the ethical framework, right, we look at the legal framework of things. There's definitely legal framework. So although we say there isn't really AI law in Singapore yet, right, but there are a lot of guidelines. There are laws related to things that will touches the AI. For example, data privacy, right? So data privacy is one of those that you have PDPA here, right? While yes, I don't have a data privacy law on AI, but if AI is to touches anything along the data of people, right, they need to comply to the PDPA as well, right? So these are some of the things that we can consider. But definitely, data privacy is a potential legal issue in use of AI, right? Liability or accountability that we talk about, algorithmic bias that we talk about, right? The AI bias itself, right? And I think in the earlier chapter, we talk about autonomous weapon, right? Which is you need special regulations to look at that. And the other thing is intellectual property, right? So you probably know that in the uni, when you submit your assignment, it's all gone through the Turnitin AI software to check how likely your assignment is generated by AI, right? So this is one of the criteria being used. So there's definitely a lot of intellectual property consideration when it comes to AI usage. Yeah. Why do we need to have a legal framework, right? It's really to protect the public interest, okay? Safeguard the public safety, privacy, and consumer rights, right? We want to promote innovation still, right? But it has to balance the risk and the benefits, okay? We want to address the liability. It's not easy, right? But we still want to have at least some definition on if something goes wrong, who is liable, right? So that's one of the most important thing to consider. Preventing bias, right? Again, we look at many AI biases, right? But it's not easy to come up with laws to prevent the biases, right? And that's why up to today, a lot of the AI bias are still through regulations and through guidelines rather than regulations. Okay. Balancing innovation and responsibility, right? So we have to be more technology neutral, right? So that we don't overly specify regulations because things are still changing, right? And then we focus on outcomes, right? And that's why the sandbox become important because it gives us a lot of data to know how to do a data-driven decision making. Okay. And of course, we want to encourage collaboration, right? and we want to be adaptive, or we want to be agile in terms of accommodating the rapid technological changes. Okay. Funding research and development. Okay. So there is actually a lot of funding available, right? Not just in Singapore, but globally, right? One of the key, I would say, entity in Singapore that's driving that is actually AI Singapore, which have their main office in NUS itself, right? It's funded by NRF, National Research Foundation, right? I don't know how many of you know. Maybe can I have a show of hand? How many of you know, or how many of you have taken any class from AI Singapore before? Anyone? Because it's not just open to technical people. There's a lot of people do courses in AI Singapore. Any one of you? By the raise of hand? Oh, okay, aware of it, but never take anything. Okay, I encourage you. I'll send you the link later. I can encourage you to take a look. It's not a degree course. They have many programs. They have AI for everyone, which anyone in the public, you can take it. They have a different level of AI. And it's very interesting because they actually have a lot of gamification, right? You can play, trying to create even AI program without any technical programming knowledge, right? Okay. Actually, I myself attended AI for Everyone sometimes back, like 5-6 years back, yeah, with AI Singapore, right? So, sorry. Yeah, so again, AI Singapore is driving a lot of this kind of research and innovation in Singapore. But of course, they start collaborating with many industry players as well, right? I think in research and development, right, we always want to promote social and ethical benefit of AI. So AI for social good, right? So whether is it for climate changes, right, for healthcare disparity, right, or we want to do AI ethical research, AI safety research, right, and many other areas. So if we look at the role of education, right, so again, there's a lot of announcement, which we'll see in the later slide, that government is actually pouring in money, right, through different programs like TESA, some of this program, to enable people to learn about AI, right? And as I said, AI Singapore actually even have a course called AI for Everyone, which I attended. And I remember 5-6 years ago, before COVID, when I attended this class, I saw people who are even a church pastor. There are people who are very, I mean, you think that they're very old, right? They also attended, right? It's actually very easy to understand. It's just an appreciation course, right? Yeah, of course, today you are taking an AI in public administration. I'm sure that's one of the key things that government is thinking or realizing, that AI is not just for technical people, right? So AI can be used in a broad sense, and whether it's for public administration, policy making, or anything, right? So we want to understand the impact of AI. So the need for AI literacy is there, supported and understood by the government. And from there, you can identify, create new opportunity, right? And then you can also, because even though you may not be the one developing AI programs or applications, you will definitely be a user, right? When you come out to work in future, or even today, as a student, you are also using AI in some extent. I'm sure a lot of you actually go to use ChatGPT for different purposes. Yeah. So let's look at AI Singapore, right? A public awareness program, what government is using to promote AI literacy, right? Remember, this chapter is about government as a promoter of AI.
AI Singapore, a national program launched to catalyze, synergize, and boost Singapore's artificial intelligence capabilities.
AI Singapore's vision is to put Singapore in the world map for AI technology. You will actually make our company in Singapore more competitive globally. You will improve the life of Singaporeans by empowering them with AI tools and techniques. We expect to see many startup companies. They'll create meaningful and interesting jobs for many Singaporeans in Singapore.
AI Singapore will seed fundamental research efforts aimed at developing AI and adjacent technologies with high impact factor. thereby contributing to the plans of AI Singapore. We will launch and support annual grants that call for bold ideas and innovative approaches in areas such as robustness and explainability of AI, learning from small and multimodal data, abstraction and generalization, and AI with sense-making, hypothesis generation, design and creative capabilities. Multidisciplinary research teams will be supported to tackle AI grand challenges, which have significant social and economic impacts on Singapore and the world. Aligned with Singapore's Smart Nation plans, a set of AI grand challenges in health, urban solutions, and finance are formulated jointly by researchers, domain experts, policymakers, and thought leaders. A grand challenge is impactful, bringing great benefits to many people. Inspiring, as it will be highly transformative and enlightening to attract top minds and change agents to work together. And measurable, clearly demonstrating breakthroughs and quantifiable success. AI innovation is a strategic thrust that aims to broaden the use and adoption of artificial intelligence in Singapore. In its 100 Experiments program, companies with a significant industry problem will be matched with AI researchers in Singapore to work on their problem statement. AI Singapore will co-fund up to $250,000 to work on the project. The company is then expected to contribute 1:1 in cash and in kind. Our target is to reach a minimum viable product status within 9 to 18 months. Throughout the 5-year program, we will groom our local talents for the future workforce. AI Singapore has introduced a 9-month, full-time AI apprenticeship program, which consists of a hybrid of classroom and online training. And through the 100 Experiments program, the apprentices will also get on-the-job training by working on a real-world AI problem, guided by AI Singapore's mentors and 100 researchers. By powering Singapore's efforts in developing deep national capabilities in artificial intelligence, our aim is to create economic and societal impacts, turning Singapore into a world leader in the field of AI.
Yeah, so you can see in this case is government really promoting, right, the use of AI through establishing this organization called AI Singapore, and AI Singapore pumping a lot of money, right, into AI Singapore to even create as simple as AI for everyone, right? So how can you say government is not a promoter of AI, right?
AI.
So this example. Then if we look at it, not just creating awareness, government as a promoter in AI, also in the talent development, right? So this is another example.
What does my future look like? I always imagine retiring and traveling around the world. That's what I would say if you asked me in the past. Now I'm an AI consultant. I help companies make use of this new technology to improve their business performance. And you know, many companies, they want to use AI, but they don't know how. So I give them advice and help them explore opportunities. Customers have problems to solve, and we have solutions for them. But of course, it is not as simple. My name is Kevin, and as you can see, I'm not very young, and my colleagues are not very old. But if you think about it, we're the same. We write code, we wear t-shirt and jeans to work, and we drink bubble tea. Except maybe for the wrinkles. I spent more than 25 years in sales and marketing, and it was very comfortable. Things like checking code, I wouldn't know how to do. This is where I had my first technical interview. In the past, I was the one interviewing people, but now I was the one being interviewed. It was totally out of my comfort zone. During my time, we used to have just one professional skill, and that will see us through our entire career. But now I have to learn technical skills like Python, R, revise my math, and many other things. I think passion is the most important thing in learning new skills. Let me show you where we come up with all the good ideas. Actually, my ex-colleague asked me, "Aren't you afraid of going back to school?" Well, this is nothing like school. The program under the Tesla initiative gave us customers and real-life problems to solve. and they were great mentors and colleagues to work with. We were also given a stipend, and that financial support allowed us to focus on our training. So you ask me what my future looks like? There's so many possibilities, but I know it will be exciting and bright. Come in! And I'm just getting started.
Yep. So again, this is a TESA program, which is one of the government program to help in talent development in the technical space, right? Whether you have a technical background or not, right? And again, this is another way government is promoting AI, right? Not only setting up entity like AI Singapore, not only pumping in money, not only creating public awareness, but even pumping in money to do talent development, right? So these are some of the very good examples. And as I said just now, I'll send you the link later after the break, right? To really take a look at this AI Singapore, because they have many good AI programs. And if you have some free time, right, feel free to take some of these short courses, because it actually gives you a good, a little bit technical background about AI itself. Yeah. Okay, and many cases in this year, just this year alone, right? There are many things over the past few years, but just last few months, we have AWS, right? Amazon Web Services, like launch a program with Singapore government, right? Called AI Sprint Singapore, and they are going to train 5,000 individuals on AI skill from this year to 2026, right? And then they are going to contribute 23.7 billion to Singapore GDP, right? To invest in new cloud infrastructure. Then, of course, just I think last month, Databricks is another big data AI company, right, that works with AWS, Microsoft, and others, right? They're going to provide data and AI skill training to more than 10,000 people in Singapore, right? So we can see, yeah, it's booming, right? And why do they come to Singapore? Without the government, right, who is actually attracting them, giving that incentive, and also creating the test bed for them, right? They wouldn't come to Singapore. They can go to many other countries like Malaysia, which many of them are going to Malaysia as well, right? Or they can go to Indonesia, Thailand, so on and so forth. So definitely Singapore government is a strong believer of AI and strong promoter of AI, that not only investing, but also attracting the ecosystem players to come in, right? To really grow the entire AI ecosystem in Singapore. Yeah. Okay, so demanding role of government as an AI promoter, right? So to promote AI, right, I definitely will have a lot of public scrutiny, right? They will definitely say, okay, you ask all of us to use AI, it's the right thing to do. You ask many of them to retrain and relearn new skills to be AI expert or AI consultant. Are we on the right track? Right, so there will be a lot of public scrutiny or questions, right? And that's why it's very important to build trust in the entire AI governance itself, right? So definitely by doing that, one way is to demonstrate transparency, right? We share AI development details, right? All the AIs that is happening, what are the investing 250,000 to build a MVP, like what AI Singapore said, right? So this kind of transparency is important. Accountability, right? So definitely who is accountable, and that's why a lot of guidelines are being done, although the laws are not passed yet, right? But some form of accountability needs to be there as well, right? And then prioritize responsible use, right? So like I say, what kind of use cases should come out first? And as I share with you, while you think that there's a lot of citizen engagement use cases, but the government is doing more for internal operation efficiency using AI, more than just doing citizen engagement, because they want to make sure everything is done correctly internally first before bringing it into the public. Yeah. Of course, continuous evaluation and improvement is important, right? Because AI is ever changing still. Okay, so as a AI promoter, government must be agile in their policy framework to keep up with the technological advancement and address the emerging challenges, right? So agile policy making, right? Not easy, as I say, it goes back to the political systems again. And what we have seen so far is the more democratic you are, right, the more democratic political system you are in, it may be more difficult because you need to go through a lot of rallying, yeah, getting support, voting, and go through many layers. Whereas an authoritarian like China may be slightly easier, right? And that's why we can see, to some extent, China AI development becomes much faster, right, than the Western country for a while. But of course, now it's catching up, yeah? So agile policymaking is important, multi-stakeholder collaboration is important. And that's why you can see Singapore is very aware of that, right? It's always involving a lot of PPP, public-private partnership. You can see everything that we launch, it has a private partnership inside it, right? So that we actually address the key industry player as well. Risk management is another important thing, right? Always identify potential risks and start with the high-risk area first. Okay, public awareness and education, right? We need to build public trust through clear communication and education in the use of AI. Okay, R&D investment, you already see there are plenty of money pouring in by the government in Singapore into R&D for AI. Okay, so sorry, shaping a responsible AI future, right? So government is very important, right, to build this sustainable ecosystem, right? So what are the key areas to look at? Definitely policy and regulation, as we keep on saying for the past few hours already, right? And then investment and infrastructure, right? So whether it's education, public awareness, talent, stimulate R&D innovation, Singapore, through AI Singapore and many other entities is doing very well in that, right? Investment in infrastructure. Ethical guidelines is important, and Singapore is starting to do that. You saw the AI Verify, right? The foundation is all about ethical and responsible use of AI. Data governance, we have our data protection law, PDPAs. Europe has its GDPR, right? All these things are being considered as well. Right, public awareness, Singapore is doing a lot of that, right? If you do not already realize, right? We even have a course called AI for Everyone, right? To really get public to be aware of that. Right, international cooperation. You saw our partnership with US in terms of international standards, and with a US company like AWS, Databricks, to come up with best practices. So definitely Singapore is following some kind of this kind of framework to ensure it's a sustainable ecosystem. Okay, this one I will not go into detail, but you can read more about that if you're interested, right? There's this thing launched by IMDA where it is called the 9 dimensions of the model AI, right? It's a framework for generative AI that was just launched last year as well, right? So in this case, it actually talk about different areas that needs to be there. Accountability, right, which is not new to us. Data, we also say, okay, how to ensure the data quality, right? And then continuous training of the data in a pragmatic way, right? Trusted development and deployment, incident reporting, which is important, part of continuous improvement, right? Testing and assurance, security, which we didn't touch a lot upon that, but a lot of AI solutions need to have this thing called security by design, right? To prevent data leakage and many other things like scamming and other things, yeah? Content provenance, right? Where the content come from, right? About the transparency, right? Safety and alignment R&D, as well as AI for public good, right? So these are the governance framework for generative AI that Singapore MDA has launched. And whenever you want to launch a new application, especially in the public sector, they will actually test and compare you against the compliance to these 9 items. Okay. So key takeaways for this part, right? Definitely government, apart from being a regulator for AI, is a strong promoter of AI, right? In many cases, especially in Singapore, right? To do that, right, you definitely need to ensure public awareness is done and gain the trust from there. You need to have a framework for responsible and ethical AI development and deployment, right? You want people to understand AI more, so the public literacy, AI literacy needs to be there, right? And then the research and development, you need to provide funding and encourage PPP, public-private partnership, to invest as well. You can see Singapore is very good at doing that, getting the Databricks and the AWS to fund for many of these R&D, right? And collaboration with the industry player is very important. So these are some of the things that government, if you want to be a promoter of AI, you need to do some of this, or if not all of these things, to ensure that you can create a sustainable ecosystem for the AI itself. Yeah. Okay. That ends our chapter 5. Any question? I think this is a pretty simple chapter. Any question? Okay, if not, maybe we take a 10 minutes break and then we will come back to do chapter 6. Then at about 9 o'clock, we will have our guest speaker, Dr. Tan, the ex-Health Promotion Board Chief Data Officer, will share with us his experience. Okay, so now let's come back at 8:20. Okay. So for those of you who didn't manage to grab your dinner, please go and grab it. Yeah. And then go and have a drink or have a toilet break. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for coming back late. Ah. 1 minute now. Let me close my room door. Okay, sorry, some family emergency. Yeah. Okay, now let's go to chapter 6. Any questions so far on chapter 4 and 5? Sorry, my voice today really not good. Still down with flu. Okay. Okay, so we thought so remember just now we talked about government as regulator, as promoter. Now the simplest one, government as user. Okay. So what are government as user, right? So we have seen in many okay, some questions here. Yes, you have a question. Go ahead, Dylan. You want to ask the question? Yes, the slides are already uploaded. You don't see them. Okay, let me show you guys where the slides are. I don't know whether you see the same view as me. Give me a minute. I know why. Okay, sorry, I haven't published it. Okay, now you should be able to see it. Sorry for that. Yeah. Uploaded but not published. But now it's published, so you should be able to see it now. Okay, let me know if you still can't see it. Sorry for that. Okay, so let's continue with the class. Okay, so the slides are uploaded as well as the video and published already. Okay, so as we discussed in the first session, right, first lecture, chapter 1, chapter 2, we know that government use AI for many purposes. One of them is really for internal operation efficiency. So a lot of that is used in automation, right? So definitely automating routine tasks, right? Enhance decision-making and improve service delivery. So this kind of things, like I say, from the simplest robotic process automation. So there's a lot of process automation tools that the government use, right? Whether is it called the Blue Prism or some other tools that they have used, right? So definitely that in general, I wouldn't say always, right? In general, increase efficiency, right? I've shown you the case of COVID-19 where we actually use automation for data entry when the new patient comes into the quarantine ward, right? And then reduce errors. Again, it can be subjective. In general, it really reduce errors, but people may question, what if the AI algorithm is wrong? Then you may create more errors, right? Yes, those are possible as well. But in general, assuming the AI is done correctly, it will help to reduce errors. And one of the best case in government, especially in public healthcare, is you use AI to automate a lot of identification of irregularities. Imagine the radiologist, right? You do a lot of X-ray and CT scan, right? All the X-ray firms to identify abnormality among thousands or tens of thousands of X-ray firms using human eye is not easy. But use AI is much more efficient and it can help to reduce human error, right? So those are some of the cases where government actually use a lot of AI for automating for efficiency. And definitely when you do automation and less reliance on human or manual labor, you have cost savings there as well, right? So definitely data analysis, right? Whether is it for predictive analysis, fraud detection, performance measurement, right? A lot of them are using AI. Document processing, right? Whether is it the like insurance company, doing the third-party processing of the claims, right? And a lot of the claims to your MediSave and all those things as well, it's all done by AI today, right? Improve administrative tasks, right? Automating routine tasks, streamline processes, these are again important as well, right? So automation for internal operation efficiency is definitely one of the most use cases in the government public sector that I've showed you in the previous lecture as well. Sorry. Okay. AI as a tool for enhanced decision making, right? So definitely with the data that collected, AI can help to do data analysis. And with that, it can help to give suggestions, right? Whether you listen 100% to AI or not, today probably not, right? That's why in medical, we also call AI triaging. Triaging means that AI gives you suggestions, but you may or may not take the suggestion as a final decision, right? But it gives you insights and you decide whether you want to use how much of it. Sorry. Get some water. That's a problem when you are down with flu. Okay. So I'll just join. Okay. So yeah, data-driven insight, it really helps in the entire use of AI for enhanced decision making. Right? Predictive modeling, right? So there's a lot of data collected, and AI can help to really chart out the future trend, right? To predict the future trend based on past. But again, you may question, right? Is the past always a good indication of the future, right? It may or may not be, but it gives you an indication. That's why up to today, we haven't used AI as a decision maker yet, right? We use AI to assist in decision making, right? Simulation and scenario planning, that's definitely another case where it helps policymaker to evaluate what are the possible scenario, because AI can generate, you can ask AI. Today, you can even play with ChatGPT, right? You say, if you go this way, if you do this, what is going to happen? If you do that, what's going to happen? It gives you some scenario planning capability already, right? So definitely this is one thing, right? When we look at chapter 3, right, or the political campaign, definitely we already said AI actually helps in the political campaigning, not just creating the propaganda needed, but also to evaluate based on the demographic, based on the profile of the voters, what are the likely questions that you may get, what are the likely scenarios that if you say something that may trigger the reaction of the voters in the certain areas, right? So definitely scenario planning and simulation is very useful to use AI for that, right? And of course, all this goes back into risk assessment, policy evaluation, and resource allocation. Okay, another key thing of AI is really bridging the digital divide. So we always say, hey, I'm not tech savvy, right? The more AI you use, the worse I become, because everybody know how to use ChatGPT and I don't know. So I actually create a digital divide for that. That is one perspective of things, right? But there are also the other perspective of things, because we are doing things like I share with you, we do AI transcription for interview with the elders. Imagine today, a lot of the volunteers may not know all the different languages, right? So how do you interact with the elders who only speak dialects? And that's why we have things like voice assistants, right? And we actually do transcription. So the volunteers who may not know all the different dialects, they take the AI transcribe something like a voice assistant robots, right? And then they interview the elderly and then get their feedback in a certain dialect, and it can transcribe to Chinese or English for them. So you can say, yes, I don't know how to use AI, so I lose out. But you can also see from this perspective that AI actually helps to bridge the digital divide instead of just creating it. Yeah. So these are the cases where, yeah, actually AI helps to narrow and to bridge the digital divide. Yeah. Okay. And of course, there's a lot of personalized service that's possible with AI because of the data and because the different data you get, and AI can work 24/7 and can process huge amount of data. It has a good algorithm, strong processing power as compared to human brain. So it can actually create a lot of personalized services for that, right? And from there, similarly, we have talked about you can do automation, you can do predictive analysis as well. Okay. So again, I would say there are three roles government can play in the use of AI. One as a regulator, right? They create guidelines, and ultimately law or regulations to ensure safety, ethical use of data, accountability, right? And protecting the citizens, whether it's the data or the citizens themselves, right? And then it can also be a promoter, right? Government is also a promoter, right? They will go through investment, right? Talent development, public awareness, right? To promote the use of AI, right? And the responsible use of AI by using public-private partnership. It's also a user, right? So government need to set an example to be a responsible user of AI for efficiency, for decision making, and good citizen engagement and experience. Okay. So how can government be an effective AI user, right? So data analysis is definitely cornerstone in any use of AI in the government, right? So some other creative and strategic application, including AI-powered policymaking, right? Today we will hear a little bit from Dr. Tan Hui Ping later on, right? On HVB, did they use any AI in terms of helping in policymaking? But as I mentioned to you already, I was involved in many of the healthcare public work, right? And then yes, I showed the case, right? In COVID, we actually use the data we collected and use AI to suggest why today you can have 3 people only, tomorrow 5 people and 9 people, and when to wear masks, when do you not to wear masks, what are the essential service and all those things. So the different, I wouldn't call it policy yet, the different guidelines or regulations during COVID times, right, that you hear from the government is a lot of AI-powered policy making, right? And from there, I also show you, right, the so-called disaster planning as well as the disease outbreak prediction, right? All these are based on AI as well, and of course, the data that's being collected. Okay, so AI-powered policymaking is already happening, although it's not just AI decided, right? It's assisting. Service enhancement, right? You already told me, right? You think that citizen engagement is the #1 use case that government use AI for, which I told you is not, right? It's actually internal efficiency. But because there are so many chatbots that you interact with, right? Whether it's with your CPF, your IRAS, and many others, right? So you think that is the #1 use case, and that already showed that government is actually using a lot of AI-powered chatbots for personalized citizen interactions, right? And we saw in the political campaign, right, especially in US, sentiment analysis, right, to understand the public opinion is actually very important. And generative AI to tailor government communication, especially how Trump is actually using it, right, for his campaign, right? I show you a photo of Trump taking photos with the blacks, right, which actually is not true, right? But these are the different ways that AI is being used, right, to communicate and to do citizen engagement or service enhancement already. Public safety, right? A lot of the cameras have the AI capability inside. And as I share with you in Shenzhen, right, as compared to 20 years ago and when I was there are still a lot of pickpockets. And then you take on taxi, the people just simply drive without safety belt. Today, if you go to Shenzhen, when you board a taxi, the first thing the taxi driver tell you is please put on safety belt because he will be fine if you are not, right? So there are so many cameras in China or in Shenzhen that people are so concerned and be aware that they know that they are being watched after every day. But good or bad, right? This is debatable, and that's why Europe doesn't launch that yet. But definitely AI is used a lot in the public safety, whether it's crime prevention or prediction. Okay. AI in education. Today, I'm sure many of you use AI like ChatGPT to guide in your study, right? So that's definitely happening. As I mentioned to you, your assessment before coming to me went through Turnitin, which is a AI detection software, AI-based AI detection software to detect what percentage of your documents or your assignment is generated by AI, right? So yeah, AI is already commonly used in education itself. But of course, there are a lot of edtech company, right? EduTech company, and I was involved in one in Indonesia that actually do a personalized learning path for the students, right? So this is already there. And it's not difficult because it's based on your learning feedback, your learning progress, and then your interest and many, many factors. Because AI, one of the good thing is that it can read different factors and then it generate a suggestion for you, right? So the path can be created, yeah, with AI. Sustainable development is another thing that government can use a lot in use AI in, right? Energy consumption. So a lot of what we call smart building, right? Today in hospital, in NEA buildings, in some of the green data centers, these are all a lot of them using AI to monitor, right? Example, they will look at what's the temperature, and then it can auto adjust the temperature of the building, right? And then it can also, in many of the smart cities in China, they have AI-based the traffic light as well as the lamp, right? The street lamp, right? So when there's no one, it doesn't light up, right? And today, I'm sure many of the toilets in SUSS, I just been there this afternoon, right, are already controlled, right? You may not think that it's AI, right? It's not as sophisticated as an AI because it's only in a big smart building or smart cities. You need an AI to really be the central brain to control it. But this kind of human detected, right, or motion detected is the first phase of the AI where it can help in the entire energy or sustainable energy consumption and development. Yeah. So AI in policymaking, we skip some of the Singapore example, right? US, right? US Centers for Medicare and Medical Services, right, is actually using predictive modeling, right, to see how policy changes affect the healthcare spending and access and overall cost. So as I told you, although this is US example, in Singapore, we are also using this. As I told you, we get the data from IRAS, CPF, and MOH to actually say what kind of subsidy we should give it to different individuals. Yeah. So AI in policy making is already happening. Yeah. Service and enhancement, right? The VCA and many other chatbots that you are familiar with the different government agency is already in use, right? Public safety, this is LAPD, right? But again, I'm most familiar with China that I've shared with you the example as well, right? Sustainable development, right? Singapore use AI-powered energy management system, right, to predict the green building itself, right? So these are the different examples that we see AI, government is using AI, right, to enhance the entire public service. Okay. Okay, so again, when we have different systems, right? So AI can help in some of these areas as well. So for example, in legacy systems, right? We have many disparate legacy systems. So in, let's say in CPF, right? You have systems from 20 years ago, right? And in IRAS, I was involved in a project 20 years ago as well, right? Things are still being used. And in banks, right? There are many of these systems. And for AI to be meaningful, you need to have data consistency, right? So when you have all these challenges in the disparate legacy system like data inconsistency, process inconsistency, inefficiency, not interoperable data sharing, right? Security risk, right? So AI can actually help in certain areas, right? They can help in data harmonization, right? So again, AI need the data, right? But AI can also help in data harmonization, right? You use AI to do data cleansing, which we use a lot, and use AI to normalize the data into a common platform. That's what we call data harmonization. So yes, AI need to use the data to generate useful insight, but AI can be also a tool to normalize things and harmonize things together. Now, of course, we talk about AI can help a lot in process automation as well, right? And then AI can also help to create different layers of interoperable data as well. Okay. And of course, AI can also help to detect anomaly, right? So that can help to improve the security, right? And reduce the security risk. Okay. So AI has two effects. One is you need the data to do things, right? But you can help to make sure the data and the process, everything comply to the standards that you can use it as well. Okay, we know government always think about two things, right? One is because AI touches a lot of data, right? So do I really want to get vendors to do it with me, or should I do in-house? So of course, each has its own pros and cons, right? So in-house, of course, you can control, right? You can customize, right? You can eliminate potential risks of privacy leakage or security risks, right? Long-term cost efficiency, right? And knowledge retention. So that's the advantage if you do it in-house. The disadvantage is that, of course, you need a lot of people, right? It will be substantial time, right? So I used to talk to not government, but an insurance company. They say they are not going to hire data scientists anymore. I asked why. They say, instead of investing on their own data scientists, there are so many people like Google, like Microsoft, investing in building the large language model, LLM already, right? And then they also build for specific industry like insurance. So why do they invest in data scientists? They can just buy it from the Microsoft or Google, right? So this is one point of view, which is not wrong, right? They can learn from the best practices. But there are also other insurance company, especially the bigger one, who tell me that, oh, I have proprietary, I want to be the leader, right? So they wouldn't wait for the Microsoft or Google to come up with it, right? Whereas a smaller one will. So it's a balance of what you want, yeah? So this advantage of doing everything in-house is, of course, resources intensive, right? Potential delays, right? And then expensive talent acquisition and development, right? And the cost will be acquisition, development, infrastructure, and many other things. If you partner, of course, the advantage is quick development, deployment, especially partnering like what we do a lot with the big ones, big boys, right? Like the Databricks, the AWS, the Google, because they already have global best practices. I can take it and run it, right? But again, the disadvantage is Singapore may be different from US, right? I have local requirements, so my customization options may be limited, right? And then I become overly dependent on these big players. What if tomorrow Microsoft want to charge me a lot of money? What do I do, right? And then data privacy concern, is it safe to host at the AWS data center, or should I host in a government data center, right? So these are some of the consideration as well. And there's no right or wrong. That's why today, at least in Singapore, is a balance of both, right? We have some mission critical, right? And usually we call them the CII, critical infrastructure, right? It has to be in-house, right? And even if I partner with a vendor, the vendor must have Singaporean citizen who can access the data and not a foreigner, right? And I have the non-CII or non-PII kind of solutions or systems that, yes, I partner more, right? So it's a balance that I have to strike between in-house and partnership, okay? All right, okay. So now we need to assess the needs and identify the opportunities, right, for AI implementation. Okay, so the step one to do that is assess the needs and identify outcomes. What outcomes we want to achieve before we say, let's do an AI implementation of that, right? So we should always be outcomes driven, right? Rather than go through the typical process or go through the technical requirements. We should look at outcome first, okay? Then we identify the data that's needed, right, to implement the necessary AI application to generate the desired outcomes. Then we need to let AI make the data actionable. Okay, so this is step one. Step two is we look at repetitive tasks, right? Anything that's time consuming, that's repetitive, that's mundane, that can have a pattern that I can, because AI is very good at pattern recognition, right? So if I can identify a pattern, then AI can actually do the work quite well. Okay. Then we need to predict the ROI, right? In step three, right? That's where we look at, okay, what are the business case, what are the use cases? So of course you ask me, I have the outcome in mind. I should already have the use case. Yes and no. Outcome can be something like, okay, I want to be able to operate the patient within 3 hours, right? To reduce the risk of any infection. So that's the outcome I want to do. But what's my use case? My use case, I may not have it, right? I may need to develop an AI use case to say, AI come in to do a triaging first. That will save 40 minutes instead of 20 minutes, right? AI help to do robotic surgery because it will actually be more precise, right? So that kind of thing will be the use case or the business case development to achieve the desired outcomes I want, okay? And we need to set KPI and the expected error rate. So there will be error rates, even if it's human, right? So we need to set the tolerance level, especially when things touches the citizen or the patient safety, okay? Then we need to make sure our AI is implemented responsibly, right? So this is something that we always need to ensure, and then remove the bias as much as possible and ensure the fairness and transparency. Okay, then ultimately we'll decide whether we partner or we use in-house to do that AI implementation. Okay. So how do you measure the success for effective AI implementation? Okay, first thing is definitely efficiency and productivity, right? What's the time that we can save? What's the cost that we can reduce? What's the error reduction rate, right? And what's the throughput improvement? So this is very simple. AI or not AI, this is something that we always measure, right? But because we're public sector, right? So public sector using AI, what are other things that we consider? That will be the impact on public services. So citizen satisfaction, right? How satisfied are you when I do use chatbot to interact with you when you ask CPF about your retirement plan, right? So these are some of the things that we get. Service delivery time, right? Am I available 24/7 compared to human? Or am I solving your problem, right? We call it first call resolution, FCR, right? That's in the old call center world, but same thing with AI. We also have similar KPI to say, okay, can my AI always solve your problem, right? First call resolution, first time I already solve your problem, I have to go to multiple loop, right? Access to services 24/7, compliance adherence, right? So these are the impact on public services. Okay, and other thing will also include data quality and model performance, right? How accurate is the data, right? How accurate is the model? This is something that if you start engaging in AI work, right, whether as a user or as a developer, you realize that the model accuracy is something that we spend a lot of time on, right? Other than data accuracy, because the model needs to be always fine-tuned. And the model can only be fine-tuned and improve and become more accurate when the data is more available, right? So this one is always happening and is a continuous improvement. Okay, and bias mitigation, right? We need to not just mitigate, but reduce the bias, right? And we need to be explainable for all our AI modeling. Yeah. ROI, you can say cost reduction, all this thing are part of ROI also, yes, but there will be more detailed ROI calculation, right? How much you invest in and how much is the returns, right? In numerical figures. And you need to look at cost benefit analysis as well. Okay. Last but not least, ethical considerations, right? That's another important factor. Consider the use of AI implementation, right? Do we comply to the privacy standards, whether it's the PDPA or any other privacy standards, the algorithmic fairness, and the accountability of things, right? So these are the 5 different areas to consider when we measure the success of an effective AI implementation. Okay. So what are the challenges and considerations? Okay. So one of the things that when we talk about in-house and partnership just now, right? One of the things is we want to reduce, right, the challenge of vendor lock-in, right? So imagine today if we always just work with the partners and without any in-house, right? Tomorrow Microsoft say, I want to charge you $1 million, you have to pay $1 million. If tomorrow Microsoft say, sorry, because this always happens because Singapore is really very small. So we are always balancing, especially when it comes to the IT world, we're always balancing choosing what we call off-the-shelf products versus a custom solution, right? Custom solution is expensive, but if you realize a lot of our systems in the public service today are custom solution. Yes, we are moving into products. Yes, we are moving into what we call software as a service, right? But a lot are still custom, especially the critical system, especially many of the system in the defense industry. Why? Because it's so mission critical that you cannot have a vendor lock-in situation, right? You need to have a full control of your data, of your algorithm, of your codes, right? If not, there will be challenges, right? So in government service or public service, we always want to ensure that we don't have a problem of a vendor lock-in, right? Because that will increase costs, right? If we want to have some localization, right? It will have limited flexibility in terms of any localization needs, right? There may be data and security risks, and there will be reduced innovation also to our own people. Yeah. So same thing for AI, right? Government will be able to implement controls in data ownership, right? So apart from in-house, right? Sometimes we really need to engage vendors is to have what we call at least a dual vendor policy, right? And more in today's world, not just government, but generally in the industry, everyone is going for open standards so that you are not subject to proprietary standards. So again, you ask me, so is Apple used in many of the public service? Answer is still yes, right? In Apple, there's a lot of lock-in with Apple because it's a proprietary ecosystem, right? But of course, government also is aware, right, and cautious about using Apple alone, right? So normally you will have an Apple operating system and Android together as well, right? But again, this is something, Apple is good in certain things that you cannot do away without them. But people are also afraid and aware that it's a proprietary system. It's not open standards to some extent, right? It's not so easy to localize, and you will have a lock-in with Apple from that perspective. Yeah. Other things to consider is things like cybersecurity risks, right? As I mentioned, you need to be considering a lot of cybersecurity risks, not just in AI implementation, but in many other system implementation as well, right? So what are the consideration, right? AI systems are vulnerable, right, with data manipulation, right? Because if you have the malicious actors, right, we call it, who actually train the data, right, and train your AI, then they can manipulate and affect the decision, right? So you cannot avoid that there will be some people who have ill intention, right? When it comes to that, you cannot, even your in-house people, right? So data manipulation is one of the challenge, right, in the cybersecurity risk, right? Model poisoning, that's another industry term that, yes, attackers can inject malicious code, right, causing AI models to misbehave, right? So if your AI is not protected well, right, you have this symptom of model poisoning. Adversarial attacks, right? Again, AI is like a human brain as well, right? So it takes in the signals, and if signals come in, the input data comes in as manipulation, right? It can deceive the AI as well, just like how it will bypass a human brain itself. Can we ping just join? Right? So causing incorrect outputs or failures, right? Another symptom is denial of service, DOS, right? That's overloading AI system with request disrupt. So again, in cybersecurity world, we always talk about what we call false alert, right? And AI can have that as well. So AI need to be able to do the first level of filter, because a lot of false alert may come, and if AI don't do the filter, you come to human. But again, if we over relying on AI, it will overload the AI systems as well. So there's a lot of modeling needed to ensure that the false alert are filtered off as well, so that you don't overload your AI systems, right? And before you overload the human people, yeah. And of course, cyber criminals can have a IP theft scenario as well, right? To steal some of the IP of the AI algorithm. Okay. And of course, comprehensive cybersecurity strategy will look at many areas from data security, right? Model security, system security, 3 layers of security, right? And then look at human factors and the collaboration and information sharing as well. Okay. Hey, hi, Weeping. Thanks for joining. I should be wrapping up in the next 5 minutes. Then we will go to your areas. Yeah. Okay, so other than cybersecurity risks, right, there are some other things that we also implement, right, as part of the entire system's security management, right? So one of them is ISMS, Information Security Management System. So, I mean, you're not an IT student, so I will not go through in details, right? But this is a systematic approach, right? It's not just a system or technical system or IT system itself. It's actually a framework, it's a management system, right, to actually do a few steps. So for example, it identifies risks, it identifies stakeholders and expectation, it put in continuous improvement, right? And it continuously measure, implement controls, set objective, and define controls. So it's a systematic approach of making things happen, right? And then each of these steps may have tools or systems that get into the entire ISMS to help in the control, okay? So this is something just for you to aware. And then, of course, you have global standards that ISMS will actually comply to. So in Singapore, it's your Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA. Europe is your GDPR. And then, of course, this ISO 27001, if you do not know what is it, it's okay, right? It's actually something what we call security by design. So anyone who is implementing a system, we always ask, are you ISO 27001 certified? If yes, okay, you have passed the security by design certification, right? So that give certain level of confidence that your design is actually complying to certain security standards. Yeah. So this is one of the things. And of course, it's not just for AI. This ISMS has been there even before AI become very popular. Yeah. And other things to look at for AI, right? When government use AI for, right? Apart from looking at security, ethical, and many other things, it's also to ensure that there's AI skills for the public sector. And we already seen just now, right? Even as a promoter, government is promoting a lot in talent development through PPP, right? But again, as a user, right? Government need to ensure that there's enough AI skills, whether is it in the government or in the industry, to help in the AI development and deployment. So there's a lot of literacy training, there's on-the-job training, there's partnership with industry player and academia to ensure the AI skills is sufficient to run the necessary AI implementation and operations in the public sector. Okay. So again, going back to ethical considerations, right? So we say a lot about the need to have ethical considerations and responsible AI implementation, right? So again, when you collect, analyze, and use citizen data, right? There's a lot of ethical considerations to ensure fairness, transparency, confidentiality, and accountability, right? So example, you have seen during COVID days, and I shared a lot in the past lecture as well, right? The contact tracing, the trace together that you use, right? So how can we ensure that all the data is good, right? I was involved in, you probably heard about one of the parliament updates, right? I think last year or the year before, I think from the Ministry of Health, they actually say that, okay, we are going to wipe out all the data that we have collected from Trace Together, right? So this is being transparent, right? And being accountable. Yes, I collect all the data during COVID time. Now that we pass this stage, right, we have to get rid of all the data and make sure that they're deleted or archived or purged away correctly, right? So these are being transparent and is reported in the parliament as well. Right, electronic health record. I can share quite a lot about that, and Hui Ping can also later on if he wants. Right, definitely today, we all contribute our data. Right, if whether you are seeing a GP in a family clinic or polyclinic, or you go to a hospital, all data are in the national electronic medical record itself. But to really encourage the entire Healthier SG program, right, which Hui Ping definitely can talk more than I do, right? We actually have this thing called National Electronic Health Records, which your public hospitals, your GP, and your public hospital all can have the common access to this data, so that they can really take care of you, right? From small illness in a GP clinic to a big problem in a hospital. Yeah. And of course, AI is increasingly being used in public health informatics a lot. This is one of the courses I teach in NUS called Public Health Informatics, right? So there's a lot of AI, as I mentioned, whether is it in triaging, right, in looking through the different CT scans or X-rays, right, to identify the abnormalities, right, to give assisted robotic surgery. So AI is definitely used a lot in the public health itself, right, and in the public health informatics. Okay, so the last slide, I'll say building a future-proof government with AI, right? So if government as an AI user need to continue to ensure responsible use, right? And of course, when government as a AI regulator, they will have regulations or guidelines to ensure the responsible use of things as well, right? Workforce development, right? Effective use of AI utilization, right? This one goes back to if government is a promoter, they will also try to invest in talent development, right? And promote the AI development itself, right? And as a user, government also need to ensure the cybersecurity risks are being considered, right? And gain public trust. And then we need to minimize the possibility of vendor lock-in, as I mentioned. Okay. And I think I'll end there. Okay. So any questions anyone has? Are you clear about the three different roles? There are some overlapping, right? Of the government playing in the AI implementation as a regulator, as a promoter, and as a user. But there are also distinct cases, right? As a user, we say many, many times since lecture 2, right? They use it for internal operation efficiency. Then they also use it for citizen engagement. As a promoter, we actually promote like AI Verified Foundation. We have different AI Singapore setting up new entities to promote the use of AI, create public awareness, do talent development, right? So that's promoter. And as regulator, is even more straightforward, right? It's about creating sandboxes and then having guidelines and ultimately laws or regulations to govern the use of AI itself. Yeah. So these are the three distinct roles of government, and they are sometimes overlapping as well. Okay. Any questions from anyone? Okay, if not, we move into the last part of our section. That is welcome Dr. Tan Hui Peng. Hi, Hui Peng. Okay, so same.
Good evening.
Welcome,
Hi.
welcome. Hey, so same thing as what Dr. James requested last time. So Dr. Tan will also request all the students to turn on your camera. Only with me they don't need, but with guest lecturer, we need them to turn on the camera because it's all about fireside chat and interaction. It's not lecture anymore. Yeah, so can you just turn on your camera, all the students, and then we can have this discussion with Dr. Tan, right? And I'll do a quick introduction first, and then we can take over. Yeah, I'm searching for your Okay. Good. So again, remember this will go into your class participation marks. Very important. Yeah. So okay. Thanks. Please continue to turn on your camera. So I would like to thank Dr. Tan. Actually, he's based out of Thailand, right? If I'm not wrong, right? And he actually took the time and to share with us, right, his experience of using AI or data in government setting, right? So a quick introduction of Dr. Tan. He's currently an advisor for A-STAR, Scientific Data Strategy Office, and also HPB Health Promotion Board's Chief Data Officer's Office. So that's his current role as an advisor, right? And he's also an affiliate faculty of SMU Academy, right? And teaching modules related to IoT, smart healthcare since 2019. And before that, Hui Peng was the inaugural Chief Data Officer of Health Promotion Board, where he took a lead role in driving the application adoption of digital health promotion to promote research and analytics at the intersection of practice and bringing preventive health, right, with clinical management. So there's a lot of use of data over there, and I'm sure quite a fair bit of AI as well, right? And before that, I think Hui Peng also spent close to 6 years in SMU School of Information Systems, right? As an associate professor in the information system, right? And then also as academic director, right, for ICT lab. Yeah. And before SMU, Hui Peng is in I2R, A-STAR, and senior scientist with SERC, right? So I think there's a lot of experience both in academia world as well as the industry, and especially in public sector that Hui Peng can share with us. Yeah. And Hui Peng got his PhD from a country that I'm familiar with, but many people may not be knowing that is Israel. Okay. So I used to work for Israel company for 9.5 years, right? And maybe you can share with us how is it doing it in Israel. Yeah. So that's your Hui Peng's PhD. And of course, yeah, he has done his different fellowship and degree in Dublin and other places as well. Yeah. So that's a short introduction of Hui Peng that I got from his profile. But feel free to introduce yourself more. Yeah. And I will leave the stage to you for now. Yeah.
Thanks, Jim, for inviting me to share some of the work that I've done in the use of data as well as AI in health. Good evening, everybody. Nice to meet you. Let me share my screen. Oh, Jim, can you allow me to share screen?
Sure. 1 minute. Let me. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay. Can you see my screen, my slides?
Yes, I can. We can.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jim. You saved me 5 minutes. I was going to introduce myself. So I will just
Oh, please go ahead because I may miss out something. Yeah.
no problem. I think I just want to add that I have not been someone who's always been in healthcare. In fact, as Jim mentioned, my foray into healthcare started when I joined SMU as a faculty member. So that was where I started to be involved heavily in healthcare related projects. In particular, projects to do with the use of technology, whether it's IoT, data, or AI, to help elderly people or seniors age in place. So this is I spent about 6 years doing research in those areas, working with both hospitals as well as community service providers. Before I joined Health Promotion Board, which is a statutory board. Apart from taking up the data role, one of my main responsibilities was also to help them expand collaborations, research collaborations to more research entities within Singapore. Okay, I think so what I hope to do today in about 20 minutes, because I don't want to bore you with me talking too much, is to share some examples about how AI and data is being used in health, and also how the public sector promotes the use of AI. I'll share some examples of my own projects. Okay, Health Promotion Board. I always like to ask this question. Can you tell me what you know about Health Promotion Board? What does Health Promotion Board do? Anyone? Or nobody knows Health Promotion Board at all?
Prof, can I have a go?
Please.
Sure, go ahead.
It's okay. The usage of AI in health for HPV, I think, is to not just make the lives of your patients or your clients ease, the ease of usage, the ease of data usage as well, so that everybody can see a doctor if they have to, or get their health checked regularly. It also helps to provide healthcare workers the ease of usage for IT technology in this industry. It makes life easier. I think I shared with Prof. Jim regarding the the usage of the apps during COVID. The Plato is one very good example. Traditionally, you have your NEHR system, which can be a little bit rudimentary at times, can be a little bit of a pain. So sometimes having an ease of usage for certain apps that 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 makes it easier will be better for usage in HPV. And in terms of AI, I think it's been pretty good so far in HPV. The Health Promotion Board, and promoting all sorts of services to, or rather educating the public in terms of when they need to get a health check and when the importance of it. I think it also makes it easier for elderly patients to access nowadays, considering the fact that they may not be very tech specs tech savvy rather in this area. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Raphael. So can Raphael or anyone tell me what is the app that you associate with Health Promotion Board? Do you know? Does anyone? It's a national app.
Yeah, I think a lot of people type in the chat. You can just shout out. Yeah. Someone
Oh,
type.
sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat.
Yeah. So, they are the shy
Okay.
people always type in the chat. So they type Health
Great.
365 Health Hub.
Okay, great. It's Healthy 365. Uh, so I think also to explain, some people get confused between Healthy 365 and Health Hub. So they both used to be under HPB, but now Health Hub has been handed over to the public healthcare institutions because Health Hub looks at more clinical matters, whereas Healthy 365 focus very much more on lifestyle. So as Raphael mentioned, Health Promotion Board's mandate is mainly healthy people, and we want to keep them as healthy as possible. So apart from Health 365, Health Hub, some of you all may have participated in some of HPB signature programs like National Steps Challenge, where you all get a free tracker, you clock certain number of steps, you clock certain number of moderate to vigorous physical activities, you get points, and then you can earn those, exchange those points with FairPrice and other vendors. Earlier, Raphael also talked about other preventive health promotion efforts like health screening. So encouraging all of you to do health screening. If you happen to be in various happen to be in various health risks. Anyone here who's Apple user, iWatch user? Anyone on our Lumi Health program? Oops. Okay, maybe you're not on it because iWatches, HPB don't give them for free. They're quite expensive. But if you happen to own one, I encourage you to sign up because it is the first national level tie-up that Apple has with any country in the world. So Apple has this tie-up with Singapore government at the national level. This program was launched in October 2020 for 2 years, and then it has been relaunched into phase 2. If you sign up with Lumi Health, similar to National Steps Challenge, if you participate in healthy lifestyle, you get rewarded, and you can get incentives up to, I think, close to $400 a year, which kind of can cover your iWatch costs. So other things that Health Promotion Board does, I think you all have listed in the chat. We look at seniors, we look at students, so school health services. If you all remember when you were in primary school, you may have come to Health Promotion Board for dental checks, eye checks, or some of the HPB nurses have also been to schools to conduct those checks. So Health Promotion Board looks after the entire life stages from children to old age. More recently, you all may have seen in the news about Health Promotion Board's programs in encouraging you to take less salt, so less sodium programs. You all may have also seen this red pyramid on the bottom of the slide, the healthy options, so less sugar, less salt, and so on. And if you participate in the Eat, Drink, Shop Healthy challenge, some of you may have come across this. If you shop at FairPrice, NTUC FairPrice, if you shop for healthier choice products, you get a coupon, and you can scan those coupons again to earn points, the same way as you earn points with National Steps Challenge. So HPB aims to be that national statutory board to promote health and prevent diseases. So what we do today is, of course, we adopt a sort of one-size-fits-all national approach. We try and get everybody healthy in the same way. But we want to move towards something which is called precision public health. We want that our programs to be more personalized and customized to your needs. So for example, if you guys, some of you may be very avid fitness runners or keep fit, but you don't really like to watch your diet. So you wouldn't want HPB to be pushing nudges to you to eat healthy. So if we understand your preferences, we could customize, our messages to you in a more personal manner. So with precision public health, we hope to understand citizens better, so that we can use their understanding to better deliver our programs to you. So this is very similar to location-based, say, advertisements. If you walk in the shopping mall, if you pass by a certain shop, they understand your profile, they'll just push advertisements that are relevant to you instead of pushing the same advertisements to everyone. And to be able to do this, of course, key enablers includes building capabilities, processes, and also technology. So in this case, data and AI are very critical enablers to help HPB achieve precision public health. Let me show you some examples of how we use data and AI. Okay, in terms of understanding citizens, let me show you some numbers here. So these numbers are taken actually from people who are in our Lumi Health program. So what we did was we look at data that we've collected from our participants. If you have a Apple Watch, you know that your Apple Watch collects all kinds of data about you. Besides collecting steps, it also is able to collect data that tells us your amount of calories burned, the exercise time, how many hours you spend a day standing, other physiological parameters such as your heart rate, resting, and also heart rate variability, and so on. So when we did some analysis of the data that we've collected initially, we noticed that we're able to cluster Lumi Health participants into 3 groups. As you can see on the chart on the left, we call these 3 groups the active young, the active old, and the sedentary young. Okay, some observations from these, some insights from these results as follows. So for example, if you look at the 3rd column, the sedentary young, so these young people compared to the active young and the active old, they actually spend 70 minutes less exercise per week, 2 hours less standing hours per day compared to the other 2 groups. Even though you notice that the BMI across these 3 groups of participants are very similar. So what this tells us in terms of understanding citizens is that BMI is not a good indicator to help us in nudging people towards more minutes of exercse or more standing hours. Because as we can see, the BMI across all these 3 groups are similar. Some other important observations here. So here we're looking at cardiorespiratory fitness, which is typically measured from this parameter called VO2 max. So some trackers are able to measure that, including the Apple Watch. The table on the right here shows you what are the recommended scores to categorize you if you're in different age groups, whether you have good cardiorespiratory fitness, below average or average, and so on. So if you look at our participants, in terms of separating them in male and female participants, you note that the male participants generally have below average cardiorespiratory fitness. On the other hand, if you look at our female participants in Lumi Health, they tend to perform better in terms of cardiovascular fitness. So these are some of the insights that we have obtained from the Lumi Health program, the data that we've collected, that enables us to better understand our citizens and cluster them into different groups. Next, of course, after understanding the citizens, we also want to try to deliver better health promotion initiatives to them. So here we look at VO2 max values, which is indicative of cardiorespiratory fitness. We look at from the time participants join our program, over a 14-month period, how does their cardiorespiratory fitness change over time? Of course, during this 14-month period, the Lumi Health program actually observed their data, and then they will push out very selective and personalized messages to them to encourage them to do well, to do better. So if you look at the trends over time, you can see that, for example, on the left-hand side, if we look at males, the younger males over time, their through the Lumi Health nudges, their VO2 max or cardiorespiratory fitness actually improved over time. So this goes to show that the Lumi Health program that's developed by Apple has been quite successful in being able to tailor nudges to nudge this group of people to improve their cardiovascular fitness, and therefore we can see the improvement. Compared to if you look at the purple graph, which are for participants 60 years old and above, we actually didn't see an improvement in their cardiovascular fitness over time. Okay, so these are two examples of initiatives in Health Promotion Board where we use data as well as AI to help us understand and then deliver better services to our citizens. Okay, I'll take a pause here. Anyone has any questions?
Feel free to ask. You're asking from the horse mouth. Yeah. A lot of insights that you can learn. Yeah. Don't be shy.
Okay, maybe we need some time to warm up. Let me move on first, and you have other questions, we can come back to this. Okay, I used the Lumi Health program as an example to show you how Health Promotion Board uses both data and AI in trying to improve health promotion for citizens. There are many other examples. If you're interested, we can talk about those afterwards. Okay, let me move on to the second row, where the public sector promotes the use of AI in health. So I heard Jim mention AI Singapore. So I believe you have heard Jim talk about AI Singapore and what the role of AI Singapore in promoting the use of AI. In addition to AI Singapore, which is a National Research Foundation funded initiative, another similar initiative, also government supported, is the Singapore Data Science Consortium. So this is also another initiative aimed at building data science talent and also supporting companies in building their capabilities in data science. So let me show you two examples of projects that I've been involved in, where these government-supported entities have helped us in our work. Okay, this first project is a project that I did when I was with SMU. So this was a partnership with NUHS, a clinician from NUHS, supported by the Singapore Data Science Initiative. The project is titled Sensors in Home for Seniors Wellbeing. Here we are specifically looking at the cognitive health of our senior citizens. So on this graph here, you see that there are different kinds of ways people age in terms of their cognitive decline. The green graph shows you normal aging. Normal aging means that as you get older, you experience some levels of forgetfulness. So these are normal. But there are other people who will develop this phenomenon called MCI, or mild cognitive impairment. So this is where the impairment is more severe than just normal forgetfulness. And it can affect, it can be a concern to the individual or the caregiver. And if the person is not diagnosed at the MCI stage, MCI can then progress to dementia. So dementia is where cognition is severely impaired, and this condition would interfere significantly with a person's daily life. So what we would hope to do in the use of technology, data, and AI is to see whether we can use technology to help diagnose MCI at an early stage, because research has shown that if you can detect MCI successfully, you can subject these patients to interventions in the community, which is less costly than interventions in the hospital. Interventions in the community can also help to reverse the person's condition from MCI back to normal condition. It can also help to slow the progression of MCI to dementia. And this is important because a lot of times people confuse MCI with normal preclinical aging, because when we are forgetful, sometimes we think it's normal. We're not sure whether it is linked to normal aging or MCI. So a lot of times these symptoms are missed, and therefore you miss the diagnosis of MCI. So in partnership with a clinician from NUHS, she was interested to use technology to help with this. And from her clinical practice, what she understands is that when she sees patients with MCI, they tend to have differences in this phenomena listed on the bottom left. So for example, their sleep quality, the usage of appliances at home, medication adherence, forgetfulness will be different between those with MCI and those with healthy cognition. So she came to us and she said, are you able to look into sensors in the home that can help me pick up, for example, a person's sleep quality, a person's medication adherence, a person's going out patterns? Because if from these sensors, they are able to tell me that if there's a difference between healthy cognition and MCI, then this means that when the person is at home with the sensors at home, I can already use this as a pre-diagnosis tool for early detection, as opposed to current practice, which is diagnosis happens in the clinic. Okay. The other advantage of using sensors is that sensors are machines. Machines generate objective data, and therefore data they can't lie. Whereas if you think about forgetfulness, our own memory of it is very subjective. We don't know for sure whether we are forgetful or not. Somebody has a question?
Hi, sir. I was just curious. Can you hear
Yes.
my audio?
So,
Yeah.
sorry, can you repeat your question?
Sorry, let me just check my audio. Can you hear me clearly now?
Sorry, Rajiv, can you repeat your question?
Hi, Rajiv here. Yeah, I wanted to ask how exactly do you receive the consent of the patients for this study because of their cognitive decline, and also about how exactly was this study conducted using the sensors?
Okay. I'll give you a short answer, and if we have time later, I can also point you to some references and papers. It will contain more details. So this is a study done together with clinicians from NUHS. So the clinician is responsible for recruiting research participants. So she goes into the community or amongst the patients. She would ask whether they're interested to participate, and then she gets the consent from them for participation. The computer science or the technical team in SMU is responsible for identifying sensors, installing them, collecting the data, and analyzing the data. But the technology team has no idea who amongst the seniors is healthy and who is impaired. Only the clinicians has the ground truth. So what we do is, after we collect the data, analyze them, we make a guess. We say, based on the data, we think this group is healthy, this group is impaired. We send our predictions to the doctor, and then she will give us a grade, how many % accuracy. Yep. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Okay, so this is the objective of the project. And I wish I could tell you the project was hugely successful. But I have to say we were successful to some extent. We put in many different kinds of sensors in the home. So you can imagine, while as a research, this is possible, while there is funding, this is fine, but it creates a lot of inconvenience to the seniors, and it also creates demands maintenance efforts from the team. So we need to be able to sieve out of the 15 sensors, how many gives us useful data. The sad truth is most of them were not very useful. So most of them couldn't tell us the difference between healthy and impaired. But we found one of the sensors, specifically the sleep sensor, which is able to give us promising results. So here, the sleep sensors we use are able to tell us whether the senior is out of bed, sleeping, or awake. From these data, we created these statistics that you see on the table on the top right. And amongst these statistics, then we do correlation analysis. We do prediction of who is healthy, who is impaired, and then we send it to the clinician. The table on the bottom right is how the accuracy of our sensors. So sleep state variability is obtained from our sensors. It can achieve 78% accuracy. That means it can tell us with 78% accuracy who is impaired versus who is healthy. This is compared to another paper-based assessment called the PSQI. So PSQI stands for Pittsburgh State Sleep Quality Index. So this is where every senior will answer a couple of questions, and from the questions, we are able to infer the person's sleep quality. And we also use this written assessment as a measure to determine whether a person is impaired or healthy. And this measure gives us 82%. So we are rather close. And because of this, this initial pilot project later on moved into a bigger 2-year project where we moved from 50 seniors participating to a total of 100 seniors participating in this study for 2 years, so that we can get more rigorous research results. So this is one example of how the Singapore Data Science Consortium, which is supported by the government, has helped us in this promoting use of AI for this particular project. Okay, one more example, and then I'll finish off. So this is an example in Health Promotion Board. This is a partnership with AI Singapore. And the topic of collaboration is called churn prediction. So churn means that people who come on board our activities, after a while, they lose interest for whatever reasons, and then they leave the system. And I'm sure some of you may have also churned before. Churn also happens when you jump from one mobile provider to a different provider for various reasons. Okay, so in HPB, we want to be able to predict churn because we realize that once we lose our citizens, once they drop off, it is quite difficult to get them to come back to our program. So we were looking at churn prediction for 2 of our big initiatives, the National Steps Challenge and also the Eat, Drink, Shop Healthy program. So let me just get on to the results. Okay, so what we did was that we used users' historical data, we call the look back window. And then we have a look ahead window where at this point, we use historical data to predict, let's say in a month's time, what is the probability that this user would churn. We want to see whether different kinds of data can help us predict churn. For example, the person's demographics, how much the person's rewards profile, that means how many points the person has earned, how many points the person has redeemed. Also the program engagement data. For example, we look at data from their wearables, we look at step count, we look at moderate to vigorous physical activity. In terms of the Eat, Drink, Shop Healthy, we look at how frequently they scan the QR codes, information about the stores where they usually do their scanning. So we feed this into the churn model for each of these programs, and then we predict whether the person is likely to churn. Then we compare this with the actual data that we collect from our users. So you can see on the right-hand side, for Steps Challenge, the churn model is able to predict with accuracy of 93%. So today, if all 19 of you are in steps challenge, running the churn model, I can predict almost close to 100% how many of you are likely to drop out of steps challenge. And if I can do that, it means that I have a window of 1 month that I can do something to motivate you to stay on, whatever that something is, depending on what we think are your reasons that you are going to churn. For the Eat, Drink, Shop Healthy churn model is about 85%, so reasonably good. So again, these are some of the examples where government promotes the use of AI. So in this case, AI Singapore is an entity that helps Health Promotion Board in using AI for churn prediction for our programs. Okay, and I'll share some of these materials with you after the class. In case you want to find out more about some of these projects, I've listed some references that I'll share in together with the slides later on. Okay, this is what I plan to share. Any questions, comments? Back to you, Jim.
Sure. Thanks, Wei Ping. Actually, sometimes we need to ask them questions because normally they don't have questions for us.
Sorry, Prof. I actually have a question.
Okay, good. Dylan.
Hi. Hi, Prof. You've spoken about some successful and some slightly less successful uses of AI by Health Promotion Board. And cognizant that the public needs to have trust in all of these in all of these like AI systems in order to go and use them, right? What are some examples of how HPB has HPB or the government in general has what are some examples of them implementing strategies to go and increase trust in AI?
Increase trust in AI.
Because like you have to trust it first before you use it. If I don't trust the AI that's being used in the steps challenge, for example, then I won't take part in the step challenge. If I don't trust the stuff that you put inside my one of the sites those like monitoring systems for old people, if I don't trust them, I won't use them. So yeah, I think trust is very important, and yeah, that's my question. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dylan, for your question. Should I answer that first, or Jim, would you like to comment?
No, I think there are two parts, right? I mean, I can share from my perspective also, but feel free to comment, right? So there are two parts. One is, of course, if you want to get a lot of public involvement, you need to get the trust. That's what Dylan is trying to say. But again, how much the public will understand what we're trying to do, right? They may just understand what are the activities and what we're going to use that data for, but the actual algorithm may or may not be exposed to them yet. Right, so I think that is one of the things that we're considering, right? So, but feel free to comment on that, Dylan, Wei Ping, because I was sharing with them that as part of the government as a promoter or use of AI, right, they also need to ensure the data privacy and accuracy, and also the model accuracy as well. Yeah, I think that's where the question comes. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Okay. I'll try to answer that to the best of my ability. So I'll answer on behalf of Health Promotion Board first. Then we talk about the seniors project that's nothing to do with Health Promotion Board. So as far as Health Promotion Board is concerned, for data privacy, consent, in all the initiatives by Health Promotion Board, there would be very detailed data privacy clauses that you read through, you scroll through when you sign up for the program. That it states very clearly how HPB would govern the data, how it protects the data, who has access to that data, who can HPB share the data with. So these things are in that terms and conditions as and when anyone registers for a program. And once they consent to it, it means that they've agreed to the provisions that Health Promotion Board provides. Does that answer your question? The second question about, I think the second question could be related to explainability of AI. Would that be correct?
Yeah, should be. Yes. Talent say yes, because that's what I told them also.
Okay. To be very honest, the AI initiatives in Health Promotion, I speak on behalf of Health Promotion Board. AI initiatives and use cases in Health Promotion Board are still very nascent. So for this particular churn prediction, this was after this collaboration with AI Singapore, it was actually rolled out June last year. And then we put a pause to it after 6 months. How much of why we put a pause can I share with you? I would say that the system ran into some technical issues. There was an overload of nudging messages that were being sent out that were confusing the public. So we had to put a pause on the churn prediction AI model. So it hasn't been in place for a while. I think when we, in future, if any AI model that HPB rolls out, if it becomes mainstream, what we will do in terms of explainability is to explain quite clearly that the AI model, what kind of data parameters the AI model uses to run. And it will probably also include some limited liability clauses. I can't give you a very comprehensive answer because, as I said, the use of AI in operationally is still very early days in, at least in Health Promotion Board. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Hui Peng, and thanks, Dylan. I think it's great that I think Dylan listened to my lecture. So that's something good. Yeah. But yeah, like what Hui Peng said, right? What we have shared is what the government or what people should do, right? Explainability, responsibly. But of course, everybody is at different stage of maturity. And if I mean, I was involved also in public healthcare. So actually HPB is quite advanced already, right? But there are definitely more things that can be done, right? And public health is also advancing in the same track as well. Yeah. Great. Thanks for the good questions. Any other questions you have? Yeah.
Thanks for the
Samuel?
question.
Yep, Samuel.
Yeah, so I noticed that I find all the initiative. I mean, it's my first time listening to some of these initiatives by HPB, especially those AI related one. And I think it's very interesting. I also noticed that it sort of leans towards more predictive type AI. So a lot of predictive analysis tapping on data analytics, right? Which I mean, with the current development of AI, which is more Gen AI, right? The newest form. I wonder if HPB has been also looking into plans or projects that touches on. I mean, there's this look ahead window, right, where the whole churn model, where there is that window of opportunity. I wonder if there's some projects looking into some motivation changes or behavior changes, stepping into that window and how capitalizing on AI to change health habits and behaviors. Yeah.
Thanks, Samuel, for the question. To answer your question directly, this particular scenario about look ahead window and trying to, so the prediction only tells us a person is likely to churn, but it doesn't tell us how to mitigate that churn. And you're right in saying that we need to do something that's more behavioral to understand the person's behavior. There is actually a new project that HPB has just started to look into the use of behavioral science to be able to make our nudges even more impactful by understanding people's behavior beyond just doing prediction. So the project has just commenced. Hopefully in a year's time, you might see something in the news about whether it's worked out or not. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Wiping. Is it Shai has a question you want to ask? Or you're shy to ask, so you type. Yeah. Wanted to ask about how can AI-driven fitness initiative ensure that they are inclusive and accessible to all populations, particularly those who may not have the access to fitness tracking technology. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Syed, for the question. If as far as fitness trackers are concerned, Seoul Health Promotion Board already gives out free trackers to all citizens and residents in Singapore. So once you are above 17 years old, you can register, download the Healthy 365 app. Once you download that, you can register to collect the tracker. And then it's given to you, and every 2 years you can refresh your tracker. But if you ask me, is the tracker comparable to the Apple Watch? I'll say for sure not, because we can't possibly be spending taxpayers' money, $1,000 on all of you. But the tracker should be able to function well for 2 years. And in terms of, besides the tracker itself, for example, Healthy 365, a mobile app, some people may have concerns that our seniors population may not be very technologically savvy. But those of you who have been following the Healthier SG initiative would know that Healthy 365 is actually a core technology for Healthier SG. So all the active aging centers in Singapore, in fact, have been commissioned to support digital literacy for the seniors in our community, so that any senior who is not very savvy, they can actually be trained to register and sign up at the active aging centers. So I hope that answers your question, Syed.
Yeah, you say yes. Okay. Any other questions?
Hi, Prof. Rajiv again. I wanted to ask a follow-up question to the previous study about the census. So you mentioned that the study wasn't as successful as it was because of some minor issues, but then there was already a follow-up study. So how do the researchers usually try to get government support in terms of funding another study for AI if, let's say, the first study wasn't as successful? And my second question was, what were the main insights from the census study in terms of recommendations for community intervention? Yeah, so those are my two questions.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Rajiv. Glad to know you have an interest in this project for seniors. Okay, when I said that the project wasn't particularly successful, I should probably rephrase and say that out of the many technologies that we were hopeful, most of them didn't live up to our promise. But at least one we found to be useful. Having said that, so we do have a lot of constraints in this project that may have caused most of the sensors to be not very useful. So I should mention that when we got started in this project, the clinician has a very small amount of funds. And with that very limited amount of funds, we had to do this study with many, many sensors. So the sensor technologies that we use were not necessarily the best ones, the most accurate ones. We have to live with what the money allows. And also the project duration was very tight. We got to a situation where we have to install the sensors in the homes. We can't keep them for longer than 2 months. We have to dismantle them and then move on to the next group of 10 seniors. So we did 10 at a time because of budget constraints. So that time duration also limited us in terms of the amount of data, the amount of useful data we could have collected. So that's why I said it wasn't that successful, but I suppose given the constraints, being able to get one sensor possibly useful is better than nothing. Yeah. I see there's another question from Sean, but sorry, Rajiv, you had a second question. I forgot what that question is.
Oh, the main recommendations for the community interventions, the outcomes of the study. So how did you recommend what kind of community interventions?
What kind
Were
of
there any?
community interventions
Yeah, that were
for this
proposed for this
particular
study.
project, is it?
Yeah.
Ah, the community interventions for people with mild cognitive impairment. Some examples of those that have proven to improve includes therapeutic gardening, or also music reminiscence. So music reminiscence is where you go into a room and then the person plays you a song that you connect with when you're in your younger days, and then you start to talk about your younger days. So these are some community interventions that have been useful for people with mild cognitive impairment. Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. There's a question about if there are any AI biases that you face while working HPB. I would like to ask Shan Wei, what do you mean by AI biases?
Yes, hi, Prof. Yeah, so just wanted to ask, because I think as I was doing the assignment, right, I think I learned that AI can be quite biased towards a certain race or like a certain culture lah. So I was wondering, like while working in HBB, especially when you're utilizing AI, yeah, are there any instances where you find that the AI is more biased towards a certain race or a certain culture? Yeah, correct.
Okay, good question. I have to answer this carefully. Okay, given our national demographic, I mean, all of us here know that the majority of our population are Chinese. So whatever AI we can do would be generally applicable to the Chinese population, but it would be quite hard for us to extend to the Malay as well as the Indian population, just because the number of people comparatively in our registered participation list is a lot smaller for the Malay and Indian community. So that makes, if I can call this bias, so there's some bias in this. The second bias we face is with regards to age. So for example, the Lumi Health program that I talked about earlier by Apple, it has a bias towards younger population. So most of the people in the Apple program are between 25 to 45. So all the findings that we have would be biased towards the younger population. On the other hand, the National STEPS Challenge, which is the one that you get the free tracker, that one has a bias towards the older population. So meaning that the findings that we have there, if you ask me whether there might be some bias, probably some bias against the younger population. So these are some of the bias we have because of our demographics.
Thanks, Prof. Thanks, good question. Because I actually share with them a lot of AI biases as well. Racial, yeah, age, yeah, Western versus Eastern, yeah.
Very sensitive topic.
That's right. That's right. Good. Okay, any questions from anyone? Maybe we can take the last two questions. Yeah. Feel free to ask. It's your time to really learn from the practitioner in the industry. Anyone else have any questions?
Or maybe, Jim, I should ask them the question.
Yeah, you can. Go ahead. I always ask them questions, so they're used to it.
Okay, let me pose a question. I'll go back to this slide. Okay, so we talk about applications of AI using the STEPS challenge and the eat, drink, shop healthy, example, and the Lumi Health example. Can any one of you think of any other areas, any other programs that we can use AI and data within Health Promotion Board? If you look at the span of all the initiatives that we have.
I wonder if because that I know the Healthy 365 now is connected to the NTUC app, and then you can sort of look into some of the products that people are buying. And I mean, one is you can also take a look at one way to use AI is to see the buying habits, right? Has it shifted? I mean, after the whole ABCD Nutri-Grade thing, I feel like there's quite a bit of things to explore on the amount of data, kind of products that people buy, and even where's the product's place and how does it influence health? Um, is it about making the logo bigger? And then I know now FairPrice also has the app, and then I noticed what FairPrice is doing is that it's telling me to buy the same things that I bought before, and I wonder if there's a way to push healthier products, is to become the first thing that we see, or kind of repeat those healthy products such that there's repeated repetitive behavior. Yeah. So maybe consumer habits could be one direction that HPB could look into. Yeah. I personally will fall trap into that. So yeah.
Good suggestion. Yes, I think our Nutri-Grade and Healthy Choice definitely can benefit from the use of AI. It's an area that we haven't really looked into. Yeah. Anyone else has any idea?
You know, all of you are becoming the data point, right? With your age group, it helps to reduce the AI bias. Yeah, so give your suggestion, yeah. Anyone else? No. So Hui Ping, you have another question for them?
Okay, one more very quick question. Do most of you, are you aware of HPB Screen for Life program? Do you go for regular health screening? Not surprisingly, most of you don't. I mean, you're in the age group. So do you see there's opportunities to use AI to encourage more people in your age group, the younger group, to go for health screening? And how do you do that? Or how can we use AI to do that?
Rafael say JB is cheaper, but again, this Screen for Health, I think as part of Healthy SG is heavily subsidized or free, right? Depending on
It's
your
free now. It used to be
yeah.
$5.
Yeah.
What are common young people fears? You have to tell us because Jim and myself are unfortunately not young people.
Yeah, that's why we have the AI bias, you see. Yeah.
Would an idea be your likelihood of getting a chronic illness by analyzing your data on your diet, the calories you take? Because if I understand it, the Screen for Life actually analyzes your risk of chronic illnesses, right? It doesn't cover terminal illnesses like cancer
No, it
or any other
doesn't.
diseases. So it's
Yes.
the general chronic illnesses. So a lot of that comes down to your diet. So if there's a way that you can compile the data of what young people, our demographic consumes, the calories we consume, the amount of protein, vitamins, minerals, salt, sugar, then you can maybe have like a chart that shows how likely are you to get this condition, whether it's hypertension or cholesterol or diabetes, then it visualizes your risk factors. Then it will maybe push people to go for all these programs, even though it's already free.
Thanks, Rajiv. In fact, just to wrap up what I want to say, one of the things that the data office wanted to do is so far we've been looking at our initiatives in silos. So for example, when I look at steps, I just nudge people to do more exercise. When I look at food, I nudge people to eat healthier. But from your suggestions, you see very clearly that there are benefits to pull all these different data together. So to understand people not just from one dimension, but to understand it from across different dimensions. And then the second thing we are also doing or have done is to link this lifestyle related data to clinical data, so that we're able to tell, as Rajiv has suggested, whether there are certain patterns in lifestyles leading to higher propensity to certain chronic conditions. Maybe if we show these numbers, it will indeed tell young people how scary it can be.
So
And
something like a
perhaps,
predictive model, a predictive model
yes,
that. Okay.
correct, correct. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Jim. I have no more question.
Hey, thanks, Wei Peng. So I think just to wrap up, Samuel also say target disease that young people will get. So one of the study, if you look through, right, the high cholesterol and all these issues, right, it's also getting younger. Yeah. So it's not that only you are above 40 or 50, then you get high cholesterol. Yeah. So this one definitely is one thing to look at it lah. Yeah. So with that, really thank Hui Peng for sharing a lot. Right, I'm sure all the students learn a lot. Some maybe just knowing Healthy 365, they don't know that's linked to HPB. And I think from the other use cases you have shared, they have learned a lot from there. And I think they gave some good suggestions as well. So thanks for sharing and thanks for coming to the lecture as well. Yeah, thanks, Wei Peng. And maybe every students give you a round of applause for that, for the great sharing as well. Yeah, thanks for that. And then that should kind of conclude our class for today. Right. So don't forget your assignment too. That is why I get Hui Peng here, right? Your assignment too is health related. So I'm sure from today's sharing, you get a lot of ideas and points that you can do your assignment too very well. That's due in October. Yeah, still got a lot of time. So thanks everyone for the class and thanks Hui Peng once more time. And have a good night, everyone. Right. I'll see
Thank
you
you,
guys
Jim.
again 2 weeks later. Yeah.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Hui Peng. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Hey, we catch up again on the other
Can,
things. Yeah.
can, no problem.
Okay,
Good
great.
night.
Hey, have a good night. Thanks.